Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching Tarnation TV and Flat Out Racing Network Simulcast here on Thursdays. Rolling Thunder Gaming, the Talladega Challenge. We're into the playoff situation now, so that's super cool. Thanks as always to everybody who's watching. Thanks as always to Rolling Thunder for, having us come together to do this. Anonymous donor this season, paying for all the races, and a lot of fun. A lot of competition, tons of drivers. I think I counted like 48 or something people in the TeamSpeak, so I do believe there definitely was a knockout tonight as far as qualifying goes to make it into the big race. Either way, without further ado, we are joined by me, of course, Blaine Donlan, Jack Mitchell, Kyle Matthews, and Seth Cole from the Flat Out Racing Network.
As you said, Blaine, we're into the playoffs now. This is where the real work begins for the 13 drivers that were either able to win or point their way into the postseason. The points have combined based off of the bonus points drivers got during the course of the regular season, their points positioning at the end of the regular season. 39 points separating all 13 drivers coming into tonight. And Kyle, we saw several different drivers take different paths to get here, including last week, Donnie Garrett, buzzer beater trip to victory lane to be that 13th driver. But now the real question is the pressure a little less for these playoff contenders in the fact that now they only have to really concentrate on 12 other drivers, or does it maybe get more difficult because now so many more drivers that did not make it into the playoffs can determine their fate as proverbial X factors?
I think for the first race here in the playoffs, I feel like the pressure is off just a little bit. But once we get to next week and these drivers know where they are in the standings and where they need to be to avoid being eliminated, that's when I think the pressure will really increase.
Definitely agree. And as Blaine mentioned, we've got Jack Mitchell joining us in the booth here tonight. You've heard him on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays calling RTG races on the Flat Out Racing Network. His first taste of the super speedway racing here on Thursday nights. And Jack, obviously, we've seen a number of individuals that we're used to seeing up at the front on any given night in speedway races or road course races. But here in a track at Talladega, where the moniker, if you're in it, you can win it, certainly going to be a lot of different faces we see up here at the front of the field. What do you think? Playoff drivers, the favorites here? Or do we maybe see an underdog driver or a non-playoff driver steal away that golden ticket into the next round?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me here in the booth. I'm excited to call my first Talladega Challenge race. Obviously, as you just said, if you're in it, you can win it. It's kind of the mentality that I think a lot of these drivers have, regardless of whether or not they're in the playoffs. I mean, there might be some drivers that only run a few races this season, might not run full time, might just be looking to get a win. And I don't really necessarily believe that there is any real, the way these races love to play out, you can't really say for sure that a playoff driver is definitively going to win this race. There might be some people that really want to just get a win regardless of the circumstances. They can find themselves up at the front.
Been really difficult for drivers to be able to establish a sense of consistency here in the regular season, kind of up, down, depending on circumstances week after week. As we mentioned, you win here tonight as a playoff driver, you get locked into the round of 8, but do we maybe treat this race here tonight as a must-win situation, or do we maybe try and spread consistency across the two races, see if we can accumulate enough points to advance into the next round?
I think, honestly, it could be a mix of both for some drivers. Some drivers, honestly, might find themselves in a position where they really feel like they need to get the win as quickly as they possibly can, maybe have no stress for the rest of the round. Other drivers, maybe you take it a little bit easy. Maybe you think, okay, well, it's not that big of a deal. It's just the first race of the playoffs. Nobody's season is ending tonight. So maybe some drivers might feel a little bit more relaxed.
I think it really depends on where they're running when it comes time to go for the win. Like, if they're in a position to win the race, I'm sure they're going to go for it, because there's got to be no better feeling than knowing that you're locked into the next round. So if they're in a position to possibly win the race, I think these guys will go for it. If they're not really in a position to win the race, then I think they'll just try to get as many points as they can.
Well, we will certainly be keeping an eye on all 40 drivers. Yes, indeed, another full field here tonight in the first playoff race of the season. We will specifically be keeping an eye on those 13 playoff drivers as they look to advance their way into the next round. Those drivers include the following: regular season champion Grant Wesley, former winners on the season Josh Metallic, Brian Schilling, Bob Seminara, Tim Nofsker, of course, Donnie Garrett, as we mentioned, winning last week, and Richard Martin. Drivers that pointed their way into the postseason include Ulysses Sandoval, defending champion Chuck McClure, Greg Lovell, Rodney Sullins, who, by the way, ended up winning the first playoff race last year in season 66. Denny Carroll and Greg Palmer make up the 13 drivers that will look to be a part of the Elite Eight in 2 weeks' time. Next week will be the first elimination race of the playoffs. Tonight basically sets the table for that. And I know we talk about in Super Speedway race, and it's not about where you start, it's where you finish. But the first 3 rows tonight going to be comprised entirely of non-playoff drivers, as Doug Hulick in the random qualifying draw will start his Toyota Camry from the pole position. Alongside of him will be Robert Spring, Billy Elliser and Bobby Farrell. They'll be in row 2. Row 3 finds Jason Scheck and RJ Cabana. You got to go all the way back to row 4 to find a pair of Chevrolet Camaro playoff drivers. That'll be Chuck McClure on the inside, Donnie Garrett on the outside. Tim Anderson and Terry Bombard will make up the rest of the top 10, so only 2 playoff drivers going to start up in the first 5 rows. Perry Bond's going to make up row number 6 alongside of Ken Roberts. Row 7 will be Milt Surratt and playoff driver Richard Martin. Greg Palmer, another playoff contender, will be back in row 8 with Javier Negron. Row 9 finds Randy Waugh.
Luigi.
And he'll be alongside of Jeremy Jeffries, who is not in the playoffs this season. A big shock there. Kelly Causey will be alongside of Grant Wesley, the points leader in the playoffs coming into tonight. They'll complete the top 20. Earl Michael Norman is back in row 11 alongside of Mark Paglia. Row 12 is going to find Ron Hagelin and playoff driver Josh Metallic. Joe DeSpirito, another driver, another surprise that's not in the playoffs. He's back in the 13th row with playoff contender Tim Nofsker. Row 14 finds Mike Mangialardi and Bernie Mobbs. Row 15, your top 30 completed by playoff driver Denny Carroll and Graham McDonald. Bob Seminara, another playoff driver. He's going to be back in row 16 alongside of Brian Lovell. Row 17 will find Glenn Harris and playoff contender Rodney Sullins. Row 18, Ulysses Sandoval and Brian Schillings. We got trouble in the back of the pack there. We might end up getting a regrid.
That's gonna be a. I'll be shocked if that's not a restart.
Yeah, looks like we're gonna get a regrid here. So that 18th row, as mentioned, is going to be Ulysses Sandoval and Brian Schilling. I have to check, but I believe Brian is going to be the furthest back of the playoff contenders here tonight. Rest of your field this evening, row 19, Craig Hagley, Robert Breedlove, and completing the field tonight, 40 cars in total, will be Brian Rawson and John Godfrey. Well, I mentioned about the fact that Rodney Sullins, last season 66, he ended up winning the regular season finale, went on to win the first playoff race. Could lightning maybe strike twice for driver 77? We saw what he was able to do, Kyle, in must-win situation last week. Even went as far as getting a tow off some lap cars to swing around a bunch of the leaders and eventually get himself to the point. Can he ride that momentum, put himself in that same type of a scenario, maybe double down and be the first driver to advance into the next round of the playoffs?
I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. Momentum is a big thing in racing, and we saw the impressive victory that he had last week. Just he has everything going for him right now, so I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to see him go back to back. But then again, seeing how competitive this season has been, we've only had one repeat winner, that being Grant Wesley. It's going to be difficult at the same time.
Hey, Jack, as I look at the playoff grid here, over 50%, 7 of the 13 drivers have formally won a championship, some of the multiple championships here on Thursday nights. 6 drivers are looking for that first championship overall. Let's see, Sandoval, Greg Lovell, Rodney Sullins, Denny Carroll fall into that category. Is there maybe more pressure on those drivers here as we get ready to take the green flag than there is on the other drivers, since they've already been in this type of a scenario before and come out on the other side with a championship trophy?
I feel like there's pressure regardless, but I feel like, yeah, absolutely. If you've been in a situation where this is your first time right now to potentially hoist that championship trophy at season's end, yeah, I feel like there's a ton of pressure right now, and that's going to be kind of the challenge is, can they deal with that pressure in the early going, or will they let it get to them early, and will they have to kind of fight back from that, from maybe a possibly rough start if they can't get the pressure out of the way early in there, and it's not in their favor. So we'll see how everybody deals with it.
We got Al Sullins in our chat here on the FRN side, getting ready to watch Rodney try and see if he can go back-to-back seasons in winning the first race of the playoffs, advance his way in through his first victory on the season. Rodney coming into tonight 9th in the point standings, the reformatted playoff standings, total of 33 points out of the points lead. We'll be keeping an eye on him and the other 12 playoff competitors during the course of 66 laps here tonight at the Talladega Super Speedway. We've seen a little bit of everything during the course of the regular season, from some survival fests in the second half of the race to photo finishes to fuel strategy races. What does this first playoff race of season 67 have in store for us? It's going to be Doug Hulick bringing the 40-car strong field through the tri-oval. Flagman has the green flag in hand. It's been 8 long regular season races to get to this point. First playoff race of the season ready to be run. Green flag waves, and we are underway at Talladega Super Speedway.
That's cool, with how to hit the post at the start of a race. You nailed it every week, buddy. It's awesome.
I don't know. It looked like he went over just a little bit.
Just a tad. Just a tad.
Couple hundred feet over, but we'll take it.
You never know exactly when that flagman wants to wave it. Sometimes he'll do it just as they're coming out of the tri-oval. Sometimes he waits right till they get to the stripe.
I would personally wait to do it right when they start accelerating, and then I would do it in the style that Barney from iRacing does.
Looks like the 74 is going to get the lead here on this first lap. I was a little bit concerned about the 23. He got a pretty good start. The 26 right behind him wasn't right there on his back bumper, and that kind of hurt him on the start, it looks like.
Robert Spring, he was on it as soon as that green flag dropped, and he was one of the drivers that wasn't necessarily guaranteed to make the field here tonight. He was one of the drivers out of the top 30 in points that had to race his way in on speed. Got himself a great qualifying draw on the outside of the front row and making the most of it.
He's got help from the 92 of Bobby Farrell right behind him there. Looks like the outside line is where you want to be, and we've already got a third line going, and it's one of our playoff drivers, Bob Seminara, leading that line.
Got Mark Paglia up there behind him in that Lotus throwback. Of course, remember, we talk about a little bit of everything in terms of the races this season. Bob Seminara scored a victory here in the regular season, but he didn't cross the start-finish line first. It was actually Tim Anderson who was unofficially awarded the victory, and then a post-race EOL put the second-place driver, Bob Seminara, as the winner of that race and locked himself into the playoffs. So while obviously Seminara will certainly take that lock into the playoff field, you got to think here tonight he'd like to get himself another checkered flag, and this time have the nose of his Chevrolet be the first one to the stripe.
I don't know, if that was me in that situation, I'd be bragging to people like, yeah, I won a race and I didn't even have to finish first. I mean, what do you think of that?
Donnie Garrett, 1 week removed from that buzzer beater victory that got him that 13th and final spot in the playoffs. He is on it from the start here. Rolled off the grid from 8th position and looking to lead this third lap of the night. He'll do so.
Bonus point.
We're going to be 3 wide for the lead going into turn 1.
This is where Talladega gets absolutely crazy. 3x3 for pretty much the whole grid.
And we've
Kyle,
seen
I like
how
that you touched on that too with that bonus point. Crucial when the points are as close as they are.
we've seen that be the difference in drivers either advancing to the next round, missing the next round. I mean, there have been a couple of times where it was probably a bonus point that, created a tie for the next round. So, I mean, 1 point may not seem like a whole lot, but man, we've seen it make a huge difference.
A couple of drivers seem to lose the pack already. Notice both Graham McDonald in the 33, Robert Breedlove the 931. They are a long ways back. I don't know if something happened that checked them up and made them lose the draft and not be able to get a tow back up, or if this is by design, but certainly both of those drivers, at least in the early going, in trouble and are hoping that this race does not continue to trend green, because they are definitely not turning the 195 mile per hour plus that this churning field of about 30 plus is making.
And they're not even running together. I mean, you see the 33 there at the tail end of the pack a little bit off, but you don't even see the 931. So I am curious to see what happened there. Now Bob Seminaro's going to lead that inside line, or, well, he was for a second there as Greg Palmer now jumps to the bottom. Looks like he might lead this lap here. And he does.
Greg Palmer comes in tonight with maybe the toughest task of the 13 playoff contenders, because based off of the point standings, if you finish in the top 10 in points, then you end up getting bonus points based off of that, as we got some cars up into the wall, including Surratt, Despirito, who was kind of forced up there by Robert Spring. Nice job, not only by those drivers of gathering it back up, but everybody else in that outside line, giving them the space necessary to recover.
That could have been a major stack up, but it's going to slow up the outside line at least a little bit. So at the front of the field, it's going to be back to 2x2 for just a moment.
Right there in the middle of the pack, toward the front of the pack, actually, Joe Despirito was scored in the 8th position during that last lap. That could have been a huge wreck, but everybody did a great job of hanging on to it.
Nearly made contact again, but he held on to it again.
Wonder if that might have been a little hip check there for what happened over in turn 2. Just a little, hey, next time, please give me a little bit more room. I was going to mention about Greg Palmer. He comes into this race, the only driver that didn't get any bonus points scored. Get bonus points for being in the top 10 in the standings based off of 1st through 10th, and then also bonus points for however many wins you accrue during the course of the regular season. And Palmer, by consequence of finishing outside of the top 10 in regular season standings and not having a victory, sits with 500 points even. Everybody else has 503 or more. So they're going to take a look here, the right rear quarter panel of Greg Palmer. Mentioned about those bonus points. Well, Donnie Garrett's gotten one, Greg Palmer's gotten one. Seminara would like to get one here as well, and he's from that Astroglide Chevrolet behind him. They moved up in front of Ken Roberts, Mark Paglia. Whoa, Doug Hulick.
Not quite clear there, but they were able to make it work. Tim Oscar gave him plenty of room right there on the outside, and
see, this is the tough thing for the playoff drivers as well. I mean, remember, Hulick, non-playoff contender. Tim Nosker, he is in the fight for the championship. The non-playoff drivers, they don't have nearly as much to lose here tonight if a move goes wrong. If you're a playoff contender, the last thing you want to do is be going into next week's elimination race in maybe too deep a hole to be able to dig yourself out of.
So, yeah, it's like there's, good news, bad news for these guys not in the playoffs. Some news, that they can't win they're not going to be able to win the championship. The good news, they really got nothing to lose. They can go out here and try to win as many races as they can. So they have a little bit of an advantage over these playoff drivers if you really think about it.
Yeah, the pressure is definitely off when you're not in the playoffs. At this point, it's just, let me get a win. Let me at least try to salvage what's been not the greatest season of all time. So, not having to deal with that same amount of pressure probably means they might be free, or they might feel they're free to at least try something a little bit more adventurous on the racetrack.
I mentioned about the fact there are a lot of big names that made it into the playoffs, but a lot of drivers who didn't as well. Jeremy Jeffries, Joe Despirito, a couple of former champions, Burning Mobs, John Godfrey, Mark Paglia, Kelly Causey, drivers we're used to seeing every season, if not win, point their way into the playoffs that are not a part of the championship festivities this season. And with all that weight of not having to worry about points, not having to worry about a championship, I think that just makes them all the more dangerous in these last 6 races.
That's for sure. Boy, Tim Nosker got a great run. He was running that middle groove, jumps to the inside, has Greg Palmer right behind him, and now he's going to be side by side for the 4th position, it looks like.
Those drivers you just mentioned, too, that didn't make it in, it's crazy to think, but that's just how competitive this series is. This whole entire league is, that good.
Yeah, like 2 former champions, Joe Despirito, Jeremy Jeffries did not make it into the playoffs. So, I mean, that's just mind-boggling. But like you said, this is an extremely competitive series, and, it's more of a surprise of who doesn't make the playoffs instead of who does usually.
Absolutely. And I mean, we've even heard it, the old admission of drivers when we talk to them post-race that victories here on Thursday nights, they mean so much more because of the fact of how small a talent gap there is of every driver in the field. You win here, you absolutely earn it, because victories here on Thursday nights are so difficult to come by.
It's been difficult to come by this season. Like we mentioned, there's only been one repeat winner this season so far.
A couple of drivers leading that inside line there, Tim Nofsker and Greg Palmer. While they are trying to advance their way in the playoffs, they also have another thing to worry about here tonight. We know that Brian Schilling is waiting in the wings on the winner's side of the bracket challenge for his future opponent in either the first or last two of the races this season to determine the bracket champion. Here tonight, a couple of matchups on the loser's side of the bracket to try and move on involve Tim Nofsker and Greg Palmer. Tim Nofsker taking on Josh Metallic, and Greg Palmer taking on the 17 of Chuck McClure, who's only a couple of cars behind him there. Looks like about 3 cars on that inside line.
Yeah, Josh Metallic's not too far either. He's the third car in line on that outside line.
Yeah, RJ Cabana moved up there. That top line's moving.
Got Joe DeSpirito up right behind him, along with Metallic, Tim Anderson, and Grant Leslie as well.
Or as he's been dubbed now, courtesy of Brian Schilling this past Monday night, Granthausen. Very nice, very fast, very evil.
Nice.
Well, our nickname, if I'm being perfectly honest, it is pretty suiting the very fast part, because, I mean, we've seen over the course of these RTG races how dominant he's been. I think he's leading the points at just about every series that's running right now.
Every single one.
So you're saying he's put a curse on the entire series?
He might have.
He might have.
And for those of you wondering, yes, at the start of the show, when our mics go live, that is the Hardy Boys theme song. Got to get this place pumped up.
Oh, it's a great way to do it. Always like their entrance music.
I've actually heard it being used for starting lineup music in an offline before.
It's completely 100% royalty free. That's why you just use it and abuse it.
Yeah, we got Jack up here in the booth tonight. Get acclimated to this series, because he and Kyle are going to be doing the commentary duties in next week's elimination race here on Thursday nights. Yours truly going to be going to Richmond, Virginia to GalaxyCon, and the Hardy Boys will be there.
Cool.
Great coincidence.
Right?
And they're still going, which is cool. They're back together again, doing their thing. It's pretty awesome to see that they're still out there kicking. Stay safe, Hardy Boys. Holy moly. I can't believe those guys can still walk after all the stuff they've done over the past
absolutely.
30 years. Holy crap.
Well, so far, so good. We've had a couple of scares here in the first 15 laps of this race. So far, we've been able to stay clean and green. I really don't want to try invoking the commentator's curse here, but I do need to point out that we are within 5 laps of when we're going to have to start talking about potential green flag pit stops. And we've seen during the course of the regular season, green flag pit stops play such a pivotal part into who's going to be up there in that lead pack when the checkered flag waves. Now with the pressure of the playoffs as well, if you're any one of those 13 drivers, the last thing you want to do is start this postseason with a pit road mistake right out of the gate.
Absolutely. You know, you definitely don't want to have that thought in the back of your mind that, you know, I'm starting the playoffs in a very rough spot because of something that didn't happen on the racetrack, but because pit road strategy went wrong, or maybe you made a mistake on a black flag for speeding on pit road or something like that. You know, there's a lot of things that can go wrong in these races. The last thing you want is for it to be something that happens out of your control, not on the racetrack.
And a lot of times it doesn't even necessarily have to be a mistake that you made. It could be a mistake that somebody else that came down with the same group as you made.
The last thing I heard you say was Jack and I are going to do commentary next week, and then I lose connection. I hope that's not a bad omen.
We are in a great spot.
Well, Robert Breedlove there, we mentioned about him losing the draft in the early going. They have put him a lap down. He'll try and stay latched onto the tail end of the field here. He'll be the only driver -1, so, of course, 2 drivers get the free passes under cautions, and so he would be in one of those positions as we currently speak. But RJ Cabana now with that inside line foraging ahead. And right now, your top three, all non-playoff contenders, with Cabana, DeSpirito, and Anderson.
Find it interesting, though, at the start of this race, we've had a number of playoff drivers kind of charge to the front and get up there and lead at least one lap early on here. And I'd say about half of them, and then the other half of them are just, looks like they're kind of holding back right now. So looks like it's a split strategy amongst the playoff drivers so far.
I'm just seeing that 28 of Paglia back there, too. He was in the playoffs until, obviously, the race was done last week and ended up being pushed out. So he was on the bubble and didn't make it.
Yeah, Mark Paglia's loss was Greg Palmer's gain. Mm-hmm. Paglia ended up losing multiple spots as here comes DeSpirito to pit road. So here we go.
Salmonera.
Jim locks him up.
Anderson.
Oh, boy.
See Richard Martin, Donnie Garrett. So we got couple playoff drivers coming down pit road here.
At least a dozen drivers involved in this group, maybe a little more than that. Looks like they all at least made it to the entrance of pit road safely. Now it's just a question of did they get them woed down in time to that 55-mile-per-hour speed limit.
Yeah, we'll be watching the stats screen to see if anybody's got any black flags.
Like more radios lighten up. I think we can expect most of our leaders to come down pit road this time. RJ Cabana, that National Guard Chevrolet, going to lead them down here. Oh, we got a major lockup back there by Sandoval. Keeps it straight.
Drifting.
Oh, cars around.
Oh, couple
Jason
cars.
Scheck. I saw John Godfrey around. Javier Negron, Billy Elliser, Brian Lovell. Doesn't look like any of the playoff drivers involved in that brouhaha there at the commitment line, but certainly going to be at least maybe a quartet of drivers that are going to find themselves losing the lead pack once this all cycles around.
If they latch on together, though, they can at least not get railroaded.
I have to wait and see. I believe a driver actually just pulled into their stall and retired out of the race. Brian Lovell.
Brian Lovell, yeah.
Now it's a matter of who cycles out to the race lead. We had a smaller group come to pit road the lap prior. A much larger group came to pit road the lap after. Normally, we end up seeing the smaller groups be able to gain a little bit more speed limit, more track position because they don't have nearly as many other drivers to maneuver around. And obviously as well, they've got the momentum of being up to speed. Tim Anderson is that lead car of the first group that came to pit road, but it doesn't look like they're quite going to get him up to the race lead once everybody else gets up to speed in front of him.
He's got Bob Seminara right behind him. That's kind of ironic after seeing what happened a couple of weeks ago. It was the photo finish that they had.
Black flag, Robert Spring.
Tough break there for Robert, who had a good start to the night, ended up leading the opening 2 laps from the outside of the front row. And surprise, surprise, after a round of green flag pit stops, Grant Wesley, the new race leader. I would love to, at some point, go back and just, watch a green flag pit stop for Grant and figure out how he does it. Like, he could be running 7th, he could be running 17th, and somehow, after a green flag pit stop, he finds himself at the front.
Yeah, I don't even think he was running in the top 10 before pit stops, so he's, from what I could notice, so he does an amazing job on pit road. Yeah, I would love to know what his secret is.
Me too. Obviously, when you do so well on pit road, that kind of consistency, that good enough timing on your pit stop and good execution on pit road as well is what puts him from about middle of the pack or wherever he is in the field to the front. I mean, the ability to consistently do that is really going to do you favors, especially when you're leading the points.
Looks like he was running about 6th or 7th. Just going back and looking at a replay here.
Like we had another driver that was hit with a speeding penalty there. 7-11 of John Godfrey. Going to have to serve a pass-through. Saw him also involved in that contact at the tail end of the second big pack that came to pit road. Right now scoring is showing 4 drivers off the lead lap. 3 of them still on the racetrack. Brian Lovell has retired from the event. So Graham McDonald, Ron Hagel, and Robert Breedlove currently in the fight for the 2 lucky dog positions. As the battle for the lead is on, here comes Chuck McClure to the inside of Grant Wesley, and certainly an entirely different type of season for the defending champion. Last season, he ended up winning his way into the postseason. He picked up a victory during the playoffs as well. Went on to win the whole thing. This season, he's had to rely on the consistency. A 0 in the win column. Still here in the championship hunt, but now might be the time where he has to start turning up the wick if he's going to go for back-to-back championships.
He's trying to turn it up right now, looking for the race lead. Got a good push from Ken Roberts right behind him. But Wesley's right there with him. It's going to be close to see who gets it at the line here.
Woo!
That noise indicates it was close.
I think Wesley just edged him out there.
That was very close.
I went back in the replay there and looked at Wesley pitting. I didn't know maybe his hot pit was molten lava, but he hit the line doing about 70, so he wasn't going crazy fast. I've seen guys faster than that on a hot pit, but he knew how to kind of dance in between a bunch of cars and thread that needle, so...
Hey guys, you want to know how close that was at the line? Even my telemetry will not
Zeros.
tell me. It reads to the
5
thousandth of a second. It's all zeros. So it had to have been to the 10,000th.
That's insane.
My goodness. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Normally I see a 001 if something's close, but it's not even that.
I've got 000. Yeah, that's amazing.
By the way, we were casually 4 wide for just a moment. They were obviously navigating around a lap car, but there is just enough room to make that work at Talladega, even if it's very nerve-wracking.
For them, it's nerve-wracking. For them, that's a Thursday night.
Yeah, luckily it was just one car right there. It was the 74, so he was able to move to the outside. Everybody was able to get by him with no problem. We still have a third line going on the outside, led by that General Lee throwback. That is Jeremy Jeffries in the 01. Got Bob Seminara right behind him. Joe DeSpirito, and is that the 10 behind him? I can't tell.
Terry, you're correct. Back
Here's
there around
the
Terry
race.
Bombard, you've actually got a familiar-looking paint scheme, but that's not Richard Martin. Richard Martin's a little bit further up. New look here tonight for Rodney Sullins.
Oh.
The Black Rifle Coffee sponsorship, but this is a Bob Dixon throwback that you'll actually be seeing as well on March 21st on Tarnation TV as Primetime Racing League hosting the Bob Dixon 250. A lot of really cool Bob Dixon tribute schemes going to be run there, and Rodney wanted to showcase it here tonight in the Talladega Challenge Series.
That's a very nice touch, and yeah, I thought that was Richard Martin at first glance. That red, white, and blue STP colors right there. That petty blue. Good looking paint scheme. A very nice touch right there. Nice tribute. But there is the actual Richard Martin, not too far in front of him.
Now we're going to see double.
Yeah.
Good luck calling this one, guys.
Like that inside line, at least the tail end of the inside line is really broken up. You see Novsker's dropping back, Richard Martin dropping back a little further up. There's nobody really for Bobby Farrell to latch onto. Even Donnie Garrett's losing some ground.
Seminara jumped out of line right there. I don't know if there was contact between him and the 80 or what, but man, that was a sudden jump.
Bit of a jolt to the inside there. Just barely managed to hold on to it, though.
Trying to see if maybe he can make some forward progress down there where it's less congested. Jeremy Jeffries now swapping from the top to the bottom as well. And as soon as I talk about there being no inside line, all of a sudden that might be becoming the line that has the momentum here with more and more drivers migrating down to that yellow line.
I went back and checked out that 0.000, and yeah, it was put it in super slow motion. You can't tell. But it had to give it to somebody. There must be a hidden fourth digit.
I'm just waiting for us to have a finish, that close. I mean, we've had some really close finishes this season already, so, I could totally see that happening.
I think it'd be safe to say probably the closest finish in RTG history. I don't know if they've ever had one that's hit 3 zeros before.
Yeah, I've seen it happen like in that situation, but I don't know if I've ever seen a race end that close. Maybe once or twice, but the game makes the decision, right? I wonder if there is a fourth digit hidden that we don't get to see.
Here, here a few years back when I was racing somewhat regularly, me and Jessica Lorley had a photo finish like that somewhere. I can't remember if it was all zeros or not, but the game gave me the win amazingly. But man, that was the closest that I could think of, being a part of something like that.
Justin's been involved in a number of close photo finishes. I remember back, I can't remember exactly the year, but I hosted a Daytona 500 event, and she and Grant Wesley literally splitter to splitter at the line, gave it 1/1000th of a second. Wesley just barely edged out Jess.
And where is the timing in the car? Is it the bumper? Is it the tires?
I believe it's the splitter. I believe it's the splitter on the car. I'm not 100% certain, but...
Like the front of the hitbox.
I think so.
The very front, I think, would be.
And then it also depends how straight the line is on the track. Does it match the actual texture? Because the texture is just the texture. It's not the actual line. So then, when you're building the track, you got to make sure you really get that start-finish line right. Because guys would be kind of angry going, no, man, it was me. I'm like, yeah, that's the paint. What about the wireframe? That's where that's what you're doing,
Unfortunately, you just got to go based off what the game says, I guess.
That's it, yeah.
You're making a lot of Chris Buescher fans angry right now.
Yes.
Right? I'm one of them. Got Tim Anderson now to the inside of Ken Roberts. Keep an eye on Ken. I mean, we talk about these non-playoff drivers that could certainly make things interesting going into next week's elimination race. Last week, a really good run for Ken Roberts. Led a couple of laps, started the race from the outside of the front row, and brought it home on the podium in the third position. A driver that we haven't seen make all the starts this season. But, hey, we talk about momentum really being beneficial from week to week. And 55 car has that from last week. Could carry it over into tonight and pick up a victory as a non-playoff contender. Like scoring is showing 23 drivers up in this lead pack right now. Up to Bobby Farrell, just checking in to see about playoff contenders that could find themselves in a spot of bother if this thing continues to trend green, and one of them is Brian Schilling. He's back in a second pack of about 5 drivers, currently scored in the 26th spot, nearly 5.5 seconds off of this lead group.
Yeah, they're really hoping for a caution, and those have been far and few between in a lot of the races this season. These guys have been doing a good job keeping everything together. I mean, a lot of races we've seen only have 1, maybe 2 cautions at most, so can't really afford to make any mistakes.
The Graham McDonald in the 33 leading that inside line. Now, he is currently a lap down, but he's going to try and stay up here with this lead pack for the main reason of they're coming up on a trio of drivers here that would be battling him for one of those lucky dog positions. Perry Bone, as well as John Godfrey and Billy Elliser. So what was about 2 or 3 drivers battling for a free pass position is now going to turn into about double that size, maybe 5 or 6 drivers.
I think Ulysses Sandoval up here as well. We were talking about him maybe almost being involved in one of those moments on entry on the pit road. Now he's all the way up here in 4th, 5th. Worked his way back up to the front.
A couple of seasons ago, Ulysses Sandoval ended up finding victory lane 3 times, just barely ended up missing out on advancing into the Final 4 to compete for the championship. Another driver, much like Chuck McClure, had a good, consistent season during the regular season, comes into this race 6th in the overall standings, and potentially could find his way via a victory, his first of the season, into the round of 8. I say the round of 8 tentatively. I mean, you mentioned, Kyle, about the importance of those bonus points, and they've put us into ties. We've had rounds of 9. We've had a final 5 last season for the final 2 races, so it's not guaranteed that it's going to be a round of 8 or a final 4. It all just really depends on how the points fall.
Yeah, but put an asterisk next to the round of whatever it is for the next round there. So it's like Ulysses gonna.
Let's do round of 40. We'll just put everybody in there.
There you go.
Everybody, one race, winner take all.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the season that Ulysses had a couple seasons ago where he won 3 times and just barely missed out on racing for a championship. I think it was the season before that he came close to winning so many times. He had a good number of second-place finishes. It reminded me a lot of, like Chase Elliott and Casey Kane, how close they came before they finally broke through to victory lane. And, we were saying during that season, it's only a matter of time before Ulysses breaks through, and he did that the next season, winning 3 times. So
here at the Tally Challenge?
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, he's good, man. I mean, he's pretty new to the game within the last 5 or 6 years. He got on the sim. I remember first meeting him at Talladega Nights, and I mean, look at him here following Ken Roberts. Why not, right? I mean, started on a keyboard, and I believe it was Sean Dotson that sent him a steering wheel. And then you just made him better. Way to go, Sean.
Yeah, continually learning as Ulysses Sandoval, but has become a really good super speedway racer. And that's starting to bleed over into speedway racing as well. He's been able to rack up some really good victories on some mile and a half racetracks.
It's a great community, man. Like this old sim, it keeps on going. And there's guys like Ulysses. I think he's in his early 20s. I'm 45. Bob Dixon just passed away. He's in his 70s. Some of these guys are up in their 80s. It's wild that, and even like Ken Roberts' nephew, I think. I can't remember his name now.
It just escaped me as well.
Yeah, he's like 17, 18 years old. So once people get in here and find some leagues to run in, it's neat to see the community,
I had no idea that there were like the age gap, the age range is as big as it is. That is incredible.
Ooh, we're pitting and I missed it.
And we have green flag pit stops starting here. I saw Tim Anderson coming down pit road and about a dozen cars here, it looks like.
Anderson went out into the grass. That was a really late break for him.
It's like Tim Knopfsker. He pulled into the wrong pit stall, had to pull out and make an adjustment there. Looked like him and Bob Seminara got together a little bit there.
Yeah, like you're saying about the age gap, it's crazy. You got like 16-year-olds, you got 80 plus. You're talking 60, 70 years between some of these people.
It's absolutely crazy. I've talked about it with Seth before on some of our other weekly broadcasts about how, that it's just mind-blowing to see how long this game has kind of stood the test of time. Power around.
Paglia and John Godfrey.
Collects Michael.
Yep, Michael gonna get clipped in the nose there by the 28. Jason Scheck also locked him up on entry. Godfrey's not going to be able to come to pit road. I don't think Paglia's going to be able to either, and now is going to be the big question for those drivers. I think actually Mark's going to try and get down to his pit stall. Now, especially with that 7-11, the question is, was that the lap he absolutely had to hit pit road, or does he have enough fuel in the tank to make at least one more circuit and get back around?
There were a couple of cars that shot up onto the track, but with nobody coming, it did bring out the yellow, so we're still green.
And it was towards the tail end of that group, so that's why the yellow flag didn't wave. Godfrey trying to get up to speed here, but he's not doing it very quickly. That says to me that he is coasting that thing to try and get back around to pit road. Already been a tough night for him. Was a lap down before this pit stop.
It's a tough break for a lot of drivers who got caught up in that right there. A lot of them were up there in the lead pack to begin with, and not sure how much damage these guys got from that either.
Yeah, Mike,
though, I'm not sure.
Felt like a pretty innocent bystander during all that. Then there was a car that went around right in front of him and just barely tagged him and then got him involved in that.
And again, I'm not exactly sure if any of those drivers, it didn't look like it, like any of the drivers involved were playoff contenders. But we'll have to see how everything cycles around here once the pit stops are completed. Like John Godfrey did make it to pit road, but it looks like he may actually be done for the night as well. Going to join Brian Lovell out of this race, leaving us with 38 drivers. Like Mark
Paglia as
Paglia
well.
also retired out of the race. So 3 drivers so far with a DNF. And it looks like we're going to have roughly about 30 drivers on the lead lap once this cycle is complete.
I got to remember to use my cough button when I'm readjusting this chair. Creaking. And the dog uses her big block head to push the door open. So sometimes you'll hear like a catastrophe in the background. That's just she's making herself at home. The list is shorter of the broadcast that my dog has not made it onto, I think. Scratching, you can hear her, scratching her ear or something, kicking the door down.
Hey, anything to get on the air, right?
Yep, that's it.
It's interesting. You brought up earlier, Kyle, about there seem to be split strategies of playoff contenders, some charging to the front, some feeling comfortable just kind of hanging in the back. Denny Carroll was one of those drivers that I saw that was just kind of riding, chilling at the tail end of the field. And he's now up here in this lead pack, unofficially in the 13th position. It looks like the strategy in that regard has worked out for him. I believe the 21 of Randy Waugh also was following that same strategy.
Randy who? Randy
Waugh.
Luigi.
There it is.
I gotta do it at least once. I gotta get used to it if I'm gonna be here next week.
It's written right on the trunk lid. He's got it. Really, he had to just buckle and do it, right? You guys aren't gonna stop calling him Waluigi's gonna write it on the car.
The Michael Norman staple.
Yep.
Speaking of, like he's about to go a lap down here along with Tim Anderson. Both of them involved in some of that pit road shenanigans on the second cycle of green flag pit stops.
They were both having a good run before that happened. Saw Tim Anderson racing up there for the lead. I saw Michael, in the middle of that lead pack as well, just kind of hanging back a little bit right there, it looks like. And now they're both going to go a lap down.
Another playoff driver. Keep an eye on for the remainder of this race that certainly is hoping this race does not continue to trend green. Former winner on the season, Richard Martin. He's lost touch with the lead pack, currently back with Milt Surratt in a little 2-car tandem, but nowhere close enough to be able to get the draft off of the trailing car of Bobby Farrell in that lead group. So Richard Martin, Brian Schilling, couple of former champions on Thursday nights, both finding themselves in not exactly enviable positions heading into next week's elimination race if they're not able to get a caution to make forward progress, or maybe even end up losing more spots before the end of the night.
Looks like they're going to try to get something going there on the outside with Nofsker and Wesley and Carroll.
I was gonna say it looked like Tim Nofsker looked like he was trying to get some followers there on the outside and gonna maybe make a charge towards the front. I'm not sure how many people he's gonna convince to do that just yet, just because there's so much momentum right now on the inside.
RJ Cabana saw that, and he's going to jump up there in front of Nofsker to try to lead that line. Got the 2 88 cars now working together, or at least 2 of the 3 88 cars, I should say. Well, all 3 of them right there. Goodness.
889, the 088, and the 88. And we ended up having a smaller pack this front half of the pack. Palmer, Sandoval, Roberts, they're content. The drivers back here, the second half, Cabana, Nofsker, Wesley, they're bored. Remember a race I was in, I was following Don Ricky, and there was a checkup in the line we were running. He dove to the inside, bypassed 2 cars, slotted back up. I said, wow, that was a heck of a move, Dante. He said, I was bored.
This shows you they're used to these kind of moves here and this kind of style of racing.
Yeah, we're over here freaking out every time they go 4 wide and nearly wreck. We're just out there like, okay, whatever. That's not a big deal.
Our reaction, don't die. Their reaction, hey, that was fun.
Yeah.
Fun? Are you kidding me?
You can have fun doing this. That just means you're so accustomed to it.
Exactly.
Cars on the very inside trying to get things going.
Playoff drivers there. Donnie Garrett, Bob Simonera. Maybe going to be able to get a little help there from Terry Bombard. A couple car lengths off the back bumper of the 712 Chevrolet. Almost looks like, at least right now, and this is a byproduct of a smaller pack of cars. It really doesn't look like any line, inside line, middle line, outside line, is being able to get an advantage in terms of energy. It's all just kind of stagnant right now, and that's one of the things when you end up having a pack of 15 or 20, you don't have that second half of the field behind, allowing you to be able to utilize the momentum. It takes a lot longer, more of a painstaking process. You could end up passing 2, 3, 4 cars in the course of a lap. With a bigger pack here, you see RJ Cabana having difficulty even staying alongside of Kelly Causey.
It's like that middle line is a little bit more organized than the other two. They've been able to, stay up front right there, the first 5 or 6 cars, while everybody else running side by side.
Just checking in on the running order here. Officially, 28 drivers on the lead lap. 37 drivers still running. And 3 drivers out of the race. Mark Paglia, John Godfrey, and Brian Lovell.
And Doug Hewlick leading that second pack. I just noticed that. The Schilling, Hagley, Scheck, Martin, and Surratt.
And we're closing in on 15 laps to go. 13 drivers started this journey here tonight in the playoffs, and currently you've got 4 of them up here inside of the top 5, with Palmer leading, Sandoval second, Metallic and Sullins in 4th and 5th. Donnie Garrett right now is scored in 7th, Bob Simonera in 8th. They're the only playoff drivers currently inside the top 10. Just outside the top 10, you've got Nofsker, Wesley McClure in 11th through 13th. Denny Carroll back in 15th. Make that Brian Schilling right now in the 20th position. And Richard Martin is the lowest running of the playoff contenders right now in the 23rd position.
Now we're on lap number 50 and yet to see a caution flag.
You're tempting it, aren't you?
I'm hoping I don't jinx
I thought
there,
I was tempting it back during the first pit stop cycle, so...
Kyle in up here in the booth. Gonna curse the field.
I'm trying to remember. I mean, you mentioned, Kyle, we had a number of races this season, at least 2 or 3 that only had 1 caution. I don't think we've yet had a race this season that went green from start to finish. It'd be really ironic, really interesting if that were the case, that it ends up being the first playoff race of the season.
This season has been as unpredictable as they come. I mean, you just... Whether it be with cautions, whether it be with race winners, playoff drivers, I mean, you name it, we've had it so far this season. This is only race number 1 in the playoffs, so I'm just curious to see what we're going to see for the rest of the season.
Expect the unexpected, as they say.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's awesome that this race started 3 wide, and now we've just been trucking along in single file for some reason. We're getting within, like you said, the last 15 laps, and waiting for nobody wants to jump out because they're going to get left behind. That's what happens in this long single file style, right? If anybody jumps out and they don't get a couple people to go with them, they're gone.
I think they're just waiting to get that final pit stop out of the way before they really start to go racing.
Right.
That final stop's not that far away either. Somewhere in the next 7 to 8 laps. Around that 6, 7 laps to go. They will all, I believe. I don't think there's anybody that's going to be able to come down pit road at 5 to go and take on a half can of fuel. I think everybody is going to have to take on a can of fuel, which will make things interesting because we ended up seeing, I think it was last week, we saw some drivers actually go a little outside the box in strategy, knowing that everyone was going to have to take on the same amount of fuel, and they pitted just after the window opened. Well, once we end up getting to lap 56, the window would be open to come down pit road and take on that 1 can of fuel. So do we end up seeing maybe a small pack of drivers do it again this week, come down pit road ahead of everybody else, make sure that they have that ease of access onto pit road, not having to pit with a dozen drivers where a mistake could happen, and maybe end up gaining some track position on the other side of it?
Very well could happen. Wouldn't be surprised. It's not a bad gamble.
Might be really worth the risk for some of these drivers too, knowing the fact that we don't have that much time left in the race, and we still have another cycle of pit stops left. That just really amps up the pressure for a lot of these guys. I think we can kind of circle back to those discussions we had at the start of the race about how much pressure is on the playoff drivers compared to the non-playoff drivers. Well, here we go.
Starting.
Yep, some of them are coming
Donnie
in.
Garrett, and Bob Seminara, Terry Bombard, and I believe that's Chuck McClure and Tim Nosker all coming down pit road.
Interesting call. 4 of those 5 drivers playoff contenders, and this is outside the window to take a can of fuel. These guys are going to have to take a can and a half.
Might be worth it, though, staying into the Hornet's Nest.
Could very well be. They've had a pretty good run here tonight overall. Maybe don't want to mistake on a green flag pit stop to squander that potential good result. I'll tell you what, Greg Palmer, we talk about those bonus points. I think it's pretty safe to say he may end up having another bonus point coming his way in terms of most laps led. That was his 20th lap led last time by. He's the only driver besides Ken Roberts that's led double-digit laps here tonight. Ken's led 10.
Grant
That's how
Wesley
you
made a
pit
little bit
right
of inside wall. Oh,
Rodney
boy.
Solins, and I believe it was DeSpirito he made contact with, and
Oh,
Randy Law.
Wesley, I can tell.
I was just about to say, saw a couple guys lock him up, but everybody else, but doing all right, and then those two made contact.
I would be curious if Flea was involved in some of that contact, because I just mentioned too, right before the spins happened, he had brushed the inside wall and going on the pit road. I wonder if that led to anything.
Also remember this as well. There is a rule here in RTG that if you end up causing an incident that doesn't bring out a caution, you have to serve a pass through. And I don't know if necessarily pit road incidents fall under that category, but if indeed Grant Wesley or even any other playoff drivers were involved in spinning the 38, would that warrant them having to come down pit road for a pass through in the closing stages of this race?
I mean,
Very well could.
if you ruin the 38's race, technically that's an incident, right?
I think so, but I'm not certain if incidents that are between the pit road entry and the pit road exit end up counting towards that or not.
Mm-hmm.
Now that was
Joe
DeSpirito.
DeSpirito in the 24, we just looked back, and he was the one that tagged the 38 of Rodney Sullins.
Novsker, black flag.
Oh, my.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Bombard, black flag as well.
Oh, we got a spinner coming up
6.
pit road.
Gonna collect
Another
the
one.
40.
Rawson got hit from behind by Hagelin, clipped the back of the Xerox number 40 of Javier Negron, who slid out into the grass. Lights are still green around the racetrack here.
The pitting tonight has been rather eventful. to
It
say the
has.
least. Holy
No
moly.
spins or incidents or anything like that on the racetrack, but then when it comes to pit road,
Oh,
like, with all the
Greg-
chaos,
Greg
More
Palmer.
contact. What was that? The 74.
Yeah,
It
Javier
was.
Negron was coming back onto pit road after his off-road excursion and clipped the right rear of Spring, sent him out into the infield grass.
Palmer,
Greg
black
Palmer's coming
flag.
back in.
Yep.
Oh,
Black
wow.
flag Palmer.
you got a black flag?
Yes,
oh my
sir.
goodness, the driver that's led the most laps here tonight.
Oh my!
See, 2 playoff drivers already getting hit with penalties here late in the going. Tim Nosker and now Greg Palmer.
There was another one. Bombard got one as well. Terry Bombard.
Dropping like flies all of a sudden.
This is
Wild.
what they call the money stop. And man, it's just not working out here for a lot of guys here tonight.
So
Yeah, the
Shaq is in
final-
first.
Like
But
he
he's
and
on pit
RJ
road, too.
Cabana may have actually stayed out an extra lap. Actually, RJ Cabana just came off of pit road. I believe Josh Metallic is going to cycle around to the lead, a driver that came in runner-up last week in the regular season finale. Well, he's going to get a challenge, though.
Donnie
Here comes
Garrett.
Garrett with a run.
The guy that beat him last week,
He's
Johnny
got to run
Garrett,
and he's
now
got help.
help from Chuck McClure in the 17. Lap car, the 33, up there with him as well.
Yeah, that up to speed lap car is giving them a bit of a push. It gave them a bit of a push on the inside. He used that to take the lead.
We had about a pack of 35, 36 when we began the first cycle of pit stops. Then went down to about a pack of 20. We're now down to a pack of 8.
Donnie Garrett said in his post-race interview last week, look out for him in the playoffs. That's where he seems to usually pick things up in terms of performance. Well, he's leading it right now, so looking to go make it back-to-back wins.
Was it the first day he was running that new paint job that he was able to win, and then he's like never going to change it? It's working.
I believe that's Rodney Sullins. No correction, Glenn Harris, that they're about to lap this lead group. And you mentioned, Kyle, about the situation for a playoff driver as we get to the final laps of this race. Obviously for Garrett, McClure, and Metallic, good situation for all three of them here. Obviously, they all want to win their way into the next round, but I think the biggest thing I would have in the back of my mind, don't make a mistake that's going to cost you the position you're in. Yes, you want that win, but don't make a risky enough move for the win that's going to take away the position you're in right now, because whether they end up winning this race or not, the 77, the 17, and the 39 finish up here inside the top 10. You're sitting really pretty to that cut line going into next week's elimination race.
Well, what helps them as well is if right now things stay the way they are. I mean, look at this lead pack. It's a pretty small pack compared to what we've seen all night. So they're, these guys could possibly be thinking, well, you know what, I can try to go for the win, if I get hung out to dry, I'm going to finish like what, 7th, 8th, maybe. I mean, at worst. So, as long as they don't make any major mistakes and get in a wreck or something, they've already got a top 10 finish locked up if it stays the way it is.
Yeah, just as long as you get hung out to dry, you don't want to get bumper grab wrecked or something. That'd be the worst.
Exactly.
It would be a lot worse to finish this race on the back of a tow hook than in anything else.
Looks like Robert Spring is serving another black flag. He's got 2 the last little bit. The money stop was not money for him.
From the race too.
Sounds like the money stop wasn't the money stop for a lot of guys. There were a handful of drivers that, that was the big pit stop of the race that could have decided the fates of a lot of these drivers throughout the course of the field. And there were just too many incidents getting on the pit road, maybe some that took place on pit road itself as well. And just not the time for that to be happening with this little time left in the race. Takes a bunch of names out of it.
But look at these guys here, right? Some guys took advantage of it.
In this lead pack right here, how many cars do we have on the lead lap? Because I know there's a number of lap cars in this group.
Scoring right now is showing
not
6
Graham
drivers.
McDonald. Yeah.
6 drivers on the lead lap in this pack.
Not Brian Rossa, not McDonald, not Perry, and not Mangialardi. So
yeah, we got Garrett, McClure, Jeffries, Metallic, Roberts, and Cabana.
Mm-hmm. But those lap cars are helping because they're not damaged. They're just lapped down, so they're assisting with that draft. And they could, you know what, too? Who do they help? You get those last second, moves for the win. Like, does Graham McDonald choose to go with McClure or Garrett? Or, because they can definitely assist in a driver maybe winning or not. Some guys will actually get out of the way and let the leaders duke it out, but I would be, hey man, if I'm not damaged, I'll stay right in there.
Got a second group that's trying to catch the lead pack, albeit over 5 seconds behind. Grant Wesley leading that pack. He's the only playoff driver that's in that group, but there's a third pack a little bit further behind that I think is really, really important in regards to what the playoffs are going to look like going into next week. It involves Rodney Sullins, Denny Carroll, Richard Martin, Brian Schilling. Obviously, we'll have to wait until all the points are calculated, but this could very well be a pack and positions that are going to determine maybe right around the cut line who's going to be just above, who's going to be just below.
Sure, Rodney Sullins in that group. Is he running 11th right now, or?
Yes, he is, which is actually incredible after he was spun around on pit road.
Yeah, that's big.
Still has a shot at the top 10. I mean, it looked like his race could have been over at that point, but pretty good recovery right there so far.
Well, I think the battle is just about on here, guys. Only 3 laps
Two
left
more.
in this thing. Here we go.
Coming up on 3 more lappers. 2 of them are playoff drivers. I noticed right there, Bob Seminara and Ulysses Sandoval. Not
Look at
sure what
Jeremy
happened to them on their.
Jeffries. A la Donnie Garrett last week. Went up to that high side, got the toe off the lap cars. It got him to the lead.
Big time.
Donnie behind him saying, hey, I showed you that.
That was such a good move last week, man. Such perfect timing on that, too. Able to use the whole straightaway to get that draft and then just thread that needle when they're going into the corner and win the race.
Like got Jeffries to the lead, but now can he hold on to it?
Ryan Rawson.
Oh,
Hold on to her.
Lots of bobbing and weaving on Rawson. He held on to it twice there. I don't know if that was
Then
internet
checked up
stuff.
RJ Cabana, and so Chuck McClure trying to take advantage. Might have been internet. There might have been an errant bump, too. I kind of saw him almost shoot down towards the yellow line as they crossed the start-finish line. Maybe a little uneven bump there. See that 096 there of Ulysses Sandoval, the white and green machine. He's now a lap down. Another of our playoff drivers could not afford a bad night here and could very well find himself below the cut line going into next week's elimination race. As white flag in the air, 1 lap to go. He wasn't able to make his way into the playoffs, but a champion from a couple of seasons ago, Jeremy Jeffries, has got that Dodge out in clean air. Can he keep the rest of the field at bay? You know Donnie wants to win his way into the next round.
It's like Donnie laid back a little bit right there, tried to build a run on him. Ken Roberts goes to the inside. He's thinking, he's looking. Jeffries slams the door on him.
good block by Jeffries there. He saw the push coming from behind. Donnie tried to take advantage of it, but Jeremy Jeffries with a solid block. Now they're going down the backstretch. Will somebody else try to make a run? Oh, down the front stretch, my bad. Oh, gosh.
McClure hangs onto it.
Barrett's to the outside.
Donnie!
Roberts go with him. Here they come at the line. It's going to be Jeffries.
1 week after the misery of not making it into the postseason, he's at least going to put a 1 in the win column. So he'll be parking that General Lee machine in victory lane here tonight. Jeremy Jeffries, non-playoff driver, denies a golden ticket to a playoff contender. That means that at least 8 drivers will have to point their way into the next round next week.
I made a rookie mistake on that last lap. That's not a good sign for next week. I thought the front stretch was the back stretch for just a moment. We were in turn 3 and 4, not turn 1 and 2.
It's a big track. It's easy to get confused there.
Yeah, they look the same.
And ignore the caution lights, right? But this was a caution-free race.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
from start to finish. How about that?
Amazing race. He had to do all 66 laps green with some incidents down below the line to really mix the field up near the end.
Yeah, I mean, that just goes to show you how important we talked about how important that the pit strategy, the pit stops, the pit road execution was going to be. You know, that is honestly, I think, what undid a lot of the races of some of the guys that are playoff drivers that, you know, had things go wrong on pit road, and ultimately that's what cost them a shot at the win, and leading to Jeremy Jeffries being a non-playoff driver deciding this thing.
And here's the thing, too, and I'm not meaning this as a negative thing, but with this being a caution-free race, and drivers will tell you, too, when there's no let-up, no opportunity to kind of catch your breath, we saw those mistakes on the final pit stop. You have to wonder if maybe the fatigue of non-stop, no cautions, no pacing laps to be able to take a little bit of a rest, if maybe that came into play and costing a number of drivers that looked like they were going to otherwise have decent top 5, top 10 finishes, now has them finishing potentially for a number of them outside of the top 15. Well, Jeremy Jeffries going to be parking it in victory lane here in a moment. We're going to be talking with him as well as the rest of the podium finishers. 2 non-playoff contenders going to comprise our podium tonight. Donnie Garrett, the only playoff contender. What a great start it's been for him off the tail end of his victory in the regular season finale. A runner-up finish here tonight. RJ Cabana, another non-playoff driver, finishing 4th. Chuck McClure, Josh Metallic will be 5th and 6th. Grant Wesley in 7th. I still can't believe that Rodney Sullins, after we saw that car facing the wrong way on pit road, he's going to finish in the top 10 and 9th, and Denny Carroll right behind him in 10th position. Also, Richard Martin and Brian Schilling, good comebacks for both of them. I mean, they were looking like they were potentially out of it. They're going to finish 11th and 12th. Points were close coming in. They may be still just as close, if not closer, going into next week's elimination race.
Boy, next week could be nerve-wracking for quite a few people here.
Some drivers may find themselves with a comfortable cushion to the cut line. Others could potentially find themselves in must-win territory. Let's now dial up our podium finishers on the evening. Let's get a hold first of the driver that has back-to-back podium finishes here in the last couple of weeks. Let's dial up Ken Roberts. Hey, Ken, it's the guys up here in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
I sure do.
Hey, second straight week we see up here in the conversation for the victory. Back-to-back third-place finishes here tonight. A little bit smaller pack than you had last week. Maybe not as much energy to be able to work with. And we saw you in an interesting position there with the 0-1, the 77. 0-1 trying to get his first win of the season. You're trying to get your first win of the season. The 77 is trying to win his way into the playoffs. How difficult did that make the decision-making in the closing stages?
Yeah, it was there's a lot of shuffling going on those last couple laps there, and you had the pack coming in from behind, and I think there was a couple lap down cars in there, but really at that point in the race, you just try to get what you can get, So second week in a row with good finish, so pretty proud of that.
No let up here tonight. Caution-free race from start to finish. Obviously, when the playoffs begin, everybody's got a slightly different agenda. How easy or how difficult was it to kind of figure out what everybody was going to be doing in relation to whether they were in the playoffs or not in the playoffs, have a victory, don't have a victory, or just trying to maybe finish out the season strong after a struggling start?
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's, what I'm trying to do. I've raced the guys clean, the guys that are in the playoffs and stuff are in the chase. But for me, just to be more consistent. Not a good start to the season, but the last couple weeks have been pretty consistent. So we'll take it.
A non-playoff driver winning here tonight, and we documented here earlier on in the race that a lot of times we'll see a driver, they'll knock off consistent finishes, top five, and then all of a sudden it just takes that one moment and they're in victory lane. With this incredible couple of weeks here, what do you think? Next week, do we maybe have back-to-back non-playoff drivers go to victory lane, and this is the 55 that we're talking to down in Victory Circle next week?
Well, that'd be nice, or maybe have a little better second place finish or something. I don't know, but yeah, it'd be good. Win would be good.
Well, Ken, a great run for you here tonight again. A lot of good momentum here for this number 55 Mountain Dew Chevrolet. Wish you the best of luck the remainder of the season here. Next week, maybe see you in the podium again. As I said, maybe in victory lane. Before we let you go, though, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Josh and Tim and Rodney, the admins over here at Run Thursday night. Great race, caution-free race. So that was awesome. I'd like to thank my teammates, the guys over Redline. We was working really good together there towards the end. One of them caught they caught some bad luck with the black flag, and I think somebody got spun on pit road. But thanks to my teammates. I'd like to thank you guys for doing the broadcast. I can't wait to go back and watch this one, and Rodney for my paint job. I love that Mountain Dew car.
Oh, Ken, congratulations once again on a great performance here tonight. Back-to-back third-place finishes here in the last couple of weeks. Best of luck going forward next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one, guys.
And Robert's going to be one of two non-playoff drivers on the podium here tonight. Let's dial up the playoff driver that brought it home in the runner-up position, last week's winner, Donnie Garrett. Hey, Donnie, it's the guys up here in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Hey, guys.
Man, I'll tell you what. We had the theatrics of last week. Looked like maybe we were going to get... Oh. See if we can get in touch here. It sounds like we're having some audio problems, so we'll just hold off here for just a brief moment. We'll let everybody know that we will be able to give you what the point scenario looks like going into next week. Shout out to the admins here at RTG for having those stats ready for us. We'll try again here. Donnie, you got us. Donnie, it's the guys in the booth. You got a copy? Looks like he might be having some problems on his end, said he couldn't hear us.
I do a pretty good Donnie impression.
Can you do a Ric Flair woo?
Woo, yes.
That's not even close, Blaine. Come on.
Need to be a little higher pitched than that.
Yeah. That's too bad he can't hear us, man. Two awesome weeks in a row for Donnie, too.
We'll see if we can get those audio issues situated here, see if we can get a hold of him before this broadcast concludes. While he's getting that sorted, let's leapfrog to victory lane and dial up tonight's race winner, Jeremy Jeffries. Hey, Jeremy, it's the guys up here in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
I do.
Man, I'll tell you, obviously the heartbreak last week, not a part of the playoffs, not battling for the championship, but here tonight, it's got to at least feel good to have this thing parked in victory lane, executed on pit road all night long, which was a necessity since we didn't have any cautions for anybody to be able to mount any comebacks if they had issues in the early going or the late portions of this race. Able to keep everybody at bay and park this machine in victory lane. Is it a weight off the shoulders at least that it's not a 0 in the win column?
Oh, definitely. It's always good to get a win. I wish I'd had it a week earlier, but I'll take it. And this 01 General Lee car that Rodney painted for me has been fast every time I've ran it, and it's nice to get in victory lane.
Obviously, you had the 77 of Donnie right behind you, a playoff contender that was looking to win his way into the next round. Is there a difference in feeling when you're trying to defend against a playoff driver as opposed to just a normal race during the regular season where you don't know who a playoff driver is yet?
No, I don't care who it was behind me. They were getting blocked.
Well, obviously, we mentioned about the fact that a lot of big names were not able to be a part of the festivities for the championship this season. Your name in that list, obviously. I mentioned about the fact that I think that just makes you and those other big names all the more dangerous. We saw it showcased here tonight. What do you think? Is this maybe not the last time we see this General Lee machine in victory lane before the close of the season?
I'd like to think there's more to come, but gosh, it's so hard to win one of these things. To get one in a 14-race season is amazing. So to get two would be even better. And hey, why not go for all 5?
There you go. I like it. Jeremy, obviously a great run for you here tonight. Congratulations on your first victory on the season. And hey, may not be the last time we're talking to you in victory lane here in season 67. We'll let you get back to your celebrating here in a moment. But before we do, floor is yours for victory lane. Thank you, sponsors and shout outs.
Of course, thank you to the broadcasters here. I see Jack, Kyle, Blaine, Seth, all you guys, I guess, for broadcasting. Thanks to all the admins and owners here at RTG, especially for tonight, Josh, Rodney, and Tim. Thank you to everybody that donates, helps put these broadcasts on, and keeps the league going. Much appreciated. Be able to put on these shows and have such freaking awesome racing. I can't believe we're into the chase and still sending people home doing knockout qualifying. That's incredible. Thank you to my XFM teammates. To Rodney again for this car. He outdid himself on this one and all the work he put into it and all the extra little stuff that nobody will ever notice but me and anybody else he points it out to. But he did a lot of work, even though it looks like a plain orange car. It is not. So thanks to him again.
Who's the face on the driver? Whose face is that?
He tried to put my face on there. I don't know if it came out looking like me, but it was cool. It was cool just to see that.
I got it on the broadcast when you were doing your burnout. I could barely see it through all the smoke, but that's when I noticed. I was like, oh, that's really neat. They got open face helmet.
Yeah, no, it came out amazing. He put so much thought and effort into these cars. It's just incredible.
Well, Jeremy, a great run for you here tonight. Congratulations on picking up your first win on the season. Best of luck to you the remainder of the season here. Maybe be able to get another victory or two before the close of season 67. Best of luck next week. Enjoy your win tonight.
Thank you.
Jeremy Jeffries, your race winner, 8th different winner on the season. And I believe we now have been told that the audio issues have been fixed for playoff driver Donnie Garrett. Let's see if we can get a hold of him now. Hey, guys, the guy's up here in the booth. You got a copy?
I got you now.
There we go. Well, man, I'll tell you what an incredible last couple of weeks. Last week, we saw you pull off the late season theatrics to win your way into the playoffs. Tonight, an opportunity to maybe lock yourself into the round of 8. It looked like you made a couple of moves there, just couldn't get to the left rear quarter panel.
Yeah, I wasn't going to push it too hard there. I knew, I was going to finish somewhere in the top 8, 7, 8, something like that if I got shuffled out. So I wasn't going to do anything crazy. Where I was at coming in with that, with that win, I was pretty low in the points. So just needed a good solid finish. I knew a lot of those guys had trouble. So it's like, hey, let's take advantage of that and get the best finish out of here we can and move on to next week.
Yeah, Kyle reminded us of your interview last week where you mentioned about the fact, hey, keep an eye on the 77 during the playoffs. It's when I perform my best. Here tonight, my goodness, no let up, caution-free cycle of 3 green flag pit stops, and you were able to execute perfectly on all of them, have yourself up in the lead pack in the conversation for this victory. Did you think that tonight this was going to be the first race of the playoffs, or did you think maybe it was going to take a slightly different path?
Well, it started with the qualifying. I mean, I qualified 8th. That's great. That's where I need to be. You got to be up front. That gave me a good pit stall, and was able to just execute all night and stay up front, and had a lot of guys working with me up there tonight. And just like I say, just try not to cause a wreck, try not to, make something happen. And as those guys started falling off, I just, smaller got bigger and bigger on my face because I knew at least I had a decent finish. I was going to advance. I think I went up to 7th in points. So I went from 13th to 7th, and we're going to take the top 8. So this first round, the first round is the toughest because the points are so separated, and you just want to get through this round, good solid finishes, and then go for a win in that second one to try to make it to the end. And that's the plan right now. So we're executing it pretty well.
What do you think about next week's elimination race? Do you think we're going to see a lot more of the same what we saw here tonight? Do you think it's going to be slightly different? Because obviously now, this was the first race of the playoffs. Everybody had an idea of pretty much what they needed to do. Now, depending on if someone had a good day or if somebody had a bad day, where they are in relation to that cut line, does it maybe change the driving style and make next week entirely different from what we saw here tonight?
Well, you saw the pressure tonight. I mean, you saw some guys, make pit stop problems and speed on pit road and put themselves in a bad position. And I come in hot a few times, taking that chance, but it pays off. But again, I'll have to go back and look at all the points. I don't know how far back people are behind me, but I'll determine how far they are in front of me, how far they are behind me. I'm right in the middle right now, and determine what kind of race I'm going to run next week. I might. Be ultra conservative, look for that top 5, top 10, as I say. Just trying to win a race, just trying to get to that next round. I could have made it harder on Jeremy. But Jeremy and I raced good together, and, it was a good win for him. And I figured I took a little shot at him there at the end, but I wasn't going to make it too hard. That second place for me was really a win, based on where I come in here tonight on points. So, just keep that going, man. Just keep that momentum up. I got momentum, and we're rolling.
You have momentum for sure. 1 week removed from that trip to victory lane. Highest playoff finisher here tonight, bringing it home solidly in the runner-up position. Donnie, best of luck next week in that elimination race as you look to advance your way into the round of 8, take one step closer to that championship. But before we let you go, we'll turn it over to you for some thank you sponsors and shout-outs.
Yeah, 10-4. Hey, I want to thank you all for sticking around and let me get my mic straightened out there. But I want to give it up to Rodney Sullins, man. Rodney's paints. That Astro glide car was slipping through the field tonight, and we got up there, and that thing's slick, and we're gonna keep that car throughout the chase. Now we had a contract signing yesterday, and we're gonna keep that car all the way through the chase and try and win this title. And thank you guys for putting on a great race. I can't wait to go back and watch this with Jack and Kyle and Blaine and you, and get back and listen to this race. I might even watch it tonight. I don't know. I'm a little keyed up, so it's hard for me to go to sleep when I get keyed up like that. So I may go back and watch it tonight. But appreciate it. We'll see you guys next week, and man, let's just keep this momentum going.
Well, the car is definitely fast. The driver is definitely fast. A second place tonight for Donnie Garrett, hoping it's the first step to advance him into the next round of the playoffs in next week's elimination race. Best of luck next week, Donnie, as you look to take one step closer towards the championship here in season 67. Woo! That's how it's done, Blaine.
That is how it's done, yeah. I was going to say, if you're going to watch the broadcast tonight, it's the shortest broadcast we've ever done, because you guys go out there and run the whole thing green, so it's only an hour and a half.
10-4, man. I love it.
Woo! That's Donnie Garrett. He's your runner-up finisher here tonight, the only playoff driver to finish this race on the podium, and the points are in. Donnie already alluded to it. He is 7th in points going into next week. But Grant Wesley still sits atop the point standings. He'll have 9 points over Josh Metallic, 18 back to Brian Schilling. Then it starts to get interesting. From 4th on down, we're going to be probably making comparisons to the cut line, which is 8th in the standings. Chuck McClure, he currently sits 4th. He's a total of 11 points ahead of the cut line. Tim Knofsker sits 8 points to the good in 5th. Bob Seminara, Donnie Garrett, they are actually in a tie for 6th place. Bob has scored in 6th, Donnie has scored in 7th, but both sit with 546 points, a meager 5 points between them and the 8th and standings cut line, which is going to be Rodney Sullins going into next week. Drivers below the cut line, a lot of them still have a chance, don't even have to win to get up above that cut line, as Denny Carroll and Ulysses Sandoval sit -4. Richard Martin currently at -5. Greg Palmer at -13, and Greg Lovell, I failed to mention that Greg was not in the field here tonight, so he will probably be in a must-win situation in next week's elimination race, as with the non-start, he is currently being scored a total of 32 points back behind the 8th in the standings cut line. But guys, Kyle, I'll start with you. It kind of took me a little bit aback in the fact that we ended up running caution-free here tonight. 1 or 2 cautions, wouldn't have necessarily surprised me, but in the fact that tonight, this was the benchmark to determine what your scenario was going to be going into the elimination race. The fact that it was literally execution, making sure you had no mistakes whatsoever because a caution wasn't going to come out and save you, really put a lot of pressure, specifically on the playoff contenders here tonight.
I think it put a lot of pressure on them when it came to making a green flag pit stops. I mean, how many mistakes did we see drivers make on that final round of stops where we had, before that we had a pretty decent sized pack racing for the lead, and then once all the pit stops settled, we only had 6, 7 drivers in the lead pack on the lead lap. So things continue like this, it's going to continue to put pressure on these guys, especially when it comes to making pit stops.
Jack, you got a taste of what these drivers have to deal with on Thursday nights, and the pressure just ramps up next week because we know that 8 drivers are moving on, and nobody has yet locked themselves in, with Jeremy, a non-playoff driver, winning here this evening. Points are super close around that cut line. Probably going to be difficult for these drivers, at least out of the gate, to have some type of a strategy in mind. Probably going to have to be on the fly based off of circumstances next week.
Absolutely. And the main takeaway I've gotten away from all of this is that the margin for error does not exist. You have to run a near perfect race, which is obviously a lot easier said than done, but I think it really comes down to execution and strategy. It can change on the fly. Somebody might have an idea going into this race of what they might want to do, and then all of a sudden something changes on the racetrack. There's something that, can factor into what their new strategy might be. They'll have to change things on the fly, like I just said, and who knows? So it's really going to come down to execution in the heat of the moment. And some drivers did it better than they did today. Or some drivers did it better than others today. So they'll have to hopefully improve on this race and try to get to victory lane as a playoff driver.
Well, it'll be nerve-wracking for the drivers, but it will be certainly entertaining for everybody that watches that elimination race next week. At least 7 drivers will have to point their way into the next round of the playoffs as Jeremy Jeffries, non-playoff contender, takes the checkered flag here tonight. Who will those 8 drivers be? Be sure to join us back here next Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on both Tarnation TV and the Flat Out Racing Network. You'll hear Jack and Kyle on the call for that one. Appreciate tuning into our coverage here tonight of the first playoff race of season 67 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. For Blaine Donlin, Kyle Matthews, Jack Mitchell, I'm Seth Cole. We'll see you guys next week as the playoffs roll on in the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series on Tarnation TV and the Flat Out Racing Network.